for the fathers around the globe. We love you more than you'll ever know. For the strength you gave me, you're truly amazing. Happy Father's Day. Place you on the highest pedestal. We love you more than you'll ever know. You chose to man up, you chose to stand up. Happy Father's Day. From my first breath to my first steps, Pops, you took me under your wing. So I'm under a king, which means I was destined to achieve anything, realize any dream, success.
Hello anglers, this is Anglers 48 and welcome to the Anglers 48 show here on the year 2024. Hopefully it's a great year. So what are we going to be talking about today? Today we're going to be talking about the overnight fishing process. I've got the kayak on the truck already loaded up, and I've been meaning to do this type of video for quite a while. Everyone prepares differently. This is the way I prepare, and sometimes not even with this it helps. So first of all, there's a couple of things that I'm going to be talking about, that I look into. Is you got to have a checklist, right? Very, very important. There are times when we just take it for granted. We load up and we take off, and it's not a very efficient experience in the end. So a checklist, you gotta look at the weather. Okay, what's the weather gonna be like? You gotta see if there's any coins, right? You gotta make sure there's coins in order to be able to go. And also the location. You got to be able to figure out, hey, are we going to go to Port Mansfield? Are we going to go to Arroyo City? So we got to check on the location. And I like to plan these things. I don't like to just pick up and go. Once again, I find that when I do that, the few times that I've done that, again, it's just not a very pleasant experience. To start off, what time do I want to leave? That's also a key. Going back, the time that I would leave would probably be maybe an hour and a half before sunrise. I never like to get into the water when the sun is already up. I like to be able to see the sun barely rising, right? It's one of those when you can see everything around you and the sun is barely starting to peak. Other individuals, other anglers, maybe they like to get in the water when the sun is already up in the sky. No, I feel that if I do that, I already lost 30 minutes, an hour of good, morning fishing. So I like to, now I'm deciding to go and do some night fishing, right? Because normally what I fish is about 4 hours, 4 or 5 at the most. And those hours, they go by so quickly that I decided, why not leave a little bit early, right? Why am I just gonna, pretend to go to sleep and just to leave, like at 5 or what have you. So I started leaving a little bit earlier, maybe getting to the spot, fishing a little bit in the dark, and then we have sunrise. Lately, these last couple of months, I've been, why not we do some day, evening, night, and morning fishing, right? And there were some times when I would go and get there, and I would be heading to the spot in darkness, and I know where the spot is. I know how long it takes to get there. I know the terrain, right? But like that mishap that I had, where my kayak flipped, it gets a little bit nerving. I still haven't quite recovered from that. You know, the kayak has held up, thank God. But the few fishing trips that I've done have been where I'm leaving maybe about noon the day before, so I can take my time to get there, fish some bait, get some bait, plenty of bait, cut mullet, and then load up and head to the spot. By the time I get to the spot, I have plenty of daylight to fish. And then sunset, dusk comes into play. And you have all that time to just sit there and enjoy the night and wait for the big boys to come by. And it's, you know, so I went from wanting to go about an hour, just the time that it gets, that for me to get there and get the bait and load up and then set everything up, and then there comes the sun, just enough, you know, because I don't like to get there when the sun's already in the sky. So the checklist, it's a long checklist. And we still forget things. That's pretty interesting. As much of that you have the checklist, there are still things that. And this is the checklist that I have, guys. It's a big list. Does it match your checklist? We got kayak, trolling motor, charged battery, casting net, anchor, paddles, measuring tape, stringer, my GoPro, the bait bucket, the knife, the lights that I use to see at night, right? The headlamp, the whistle, which is required by the Texas game warden, the life vest, which is also required, my rods and reels, the bait, my vest that I put my keys and phone and pliers and scissors, that vest, the cooler, the ice for the cooler. You gotta take snacks. You can't be over there and all of a sudden you start getting that crave. You know, I mean, you're not gonna be too happy over there. The repellent, you gotta take repellent. You can be the toughest person in the world, but when those mosquitoes start getting at you, you gotta, you know, I take 4 or 5 jackets. So your jackets, your beanie, your mask, the chair. I forgot the chair on my last fishing trip. Toilet paper. I like to take some Picot, some Imodium, Tylenol, some change of clothes. Sometimes it's been a long night, you're getting wet. Sometimes if you're wearing the waders, you sweat your clothes under your waders. So clean dry clothes. The strike alert bells. Your charged cell phone. You gotta make sure your cell phone is charged. Sometimes I'll take some coffee, right? I need to get a thermos. I need a thermos, but take your coffee. So that's a long checklist. And I'm sure I'm still missing a couple of things there. Extra batteries for your light, your headlamp. So I would take charge banks. The last time, the time that my kayak flipped, I had 2 charge banks. They both got destroyed. They got wet. So sometimes it gets pretty lonely, right? And you're on your phone, and sometimes you're like, you can't use your phone because it's battery's halfway. So when you have a charge bank, right, and a charger, you can use your phone, and when you're not using it, you have it plugged into the charge bank or what have you. So charge banks, because once again, the night can get pretty lonely. So that's it. That is the checklist. Very important to have that checklist, guys. In the past, I've taken off. Okay, I got this, I got that. Okay. You don't want to go over there and you don't have your paddles. Or all of a sudden you start getting a headache. Or all of a sudden it starts getting cold. It's happened a lot of the times that I go. It doesn't matter if the weather says that it's going to be nice and hot. I still take my jackets. I still take them. It's better to take them and not use them than to be, oh, I should have, I could have, I would have. The weather, that is essential. That's the app, one of the apps on my phone that I use daily. I think I use it 50 times or more on a daily basis. The weather may change or not even be accurate. That's the weird thing. A couple of times that I've gone fishing, I'm looking at the weather app. It says 4-mile-an-hour winds. 4-mile-an-hour winds. I asked Google, what's the wind right now in Port Mansfield? Google gives me another wind speed. 6 miles an hour. It looked like 20. It felt like 20 miles an hour. So the weather is not very accurate, unfortunately, specifically in Port Mansfield. And it's tough. It's tough when you're out there and the app tells you one thing and there's something else. And if you look at the weather, right, it gives you the wind, and then it gives you the wind gust. It's very important that you look into that, because sometimes you're going to see, oh, the wind is 8 miles an hour. And you're like, all right, not bad. Right below it, it says wind gusts 16 miles an hour. Now, when you're looking at the weather and it says 5 miles an hour, you look at the wind gusts, 6 miles an hour. It's looking better, right? So, and it's happened the other way around also. There's been times when I'm dying to go fishing. You know, too bad with what the wind is. I need to go. I have to go. And I get there. It's a beautiful fishing experience. Tony's like, you gonna go? It says 16 mile an hour winds. And I'm like, doesn't matter. I'll still go. I know I'm not gonna catch anything. I know it's gonna be ugly. And I get over there and it's like 2 mile an hour winds. The water is very serene. What in the world is going on? Great experience. Very unpredictable. some of my past experiences. We went on the kayak overnight with Tony, and it was an iffy afternoon, iffy evening. But instead of the winds dying down, they picked up. It got super ugly. We had taken some tents, and we spent most of the time in the tent. That tent, if I would have gotten out of it, it would have probably flown away. It was collapsing around me. I peeked at Tony's tent, it was collapsing around him as well. But it was better to be in the tent than out of it. There was a time when I went fishing. Very serene, very calm. Midnight comes around, it's still calm, but the temperature dropped big time. I was getting frostbite, and I had all kinds of clothing, and I was very insulated. I took off. I gathered everything, took off. Hypothermia right there. Beautiful. No wind whatsoever, but my nose was super cold and red. My fingertips, I couldn't feel them. This past fishing trip, the wind, it never quit. It wasn't as bad as when Tony and I went. But the wind was relentless. We didn't quit. The weather, it was telling me that it was a certain speed, but it felt totally different. It felt like 2 or 3 times that. And I was insulated. It was cold. I had to lie down on the ground, and the kayak shielded the wind a little bit. Around 2 o'clock, the wind died, just for a little bit, enough for me to rebait and be able to pull that 43-inch bull red. And then it cranked up again. It gets crazy. Gotta check the weather. Even when you check the weather and you prepare, things may go south. You gotta let somebody know where we're gonna be fishing at. What county, what town. Something happens to us, they at least know. Officer, he said he was gonna go to Willacy County. All right, that kind of narrows it down. Or he said he was gonna be in Port Mansfield on the north side. That narrows it down. Obviously, we gotta let them know if we change our mind. Halfway through the trip, let's go to Arroyo City instead. We gotta let them know. When you get to the wherever you're gonna be loading the state, whichever spot you're gonna, if you choose the north side of Port Mansfield or the south side, you gotta bring the kayak down and you gotta load the kayak, obviously. But you gotta go through the checklist again. You gotta make sure that everything that you need is off of the truck and onto the kayak. And you gotta secure it safely. A couple of times, I get to the spot where I'm gonna fish and I forget something. I forgot my lunch. My snacks. I forgot my repellent. I had to make that long walk back to the truck. It's about a 30-minute walk because there's no way I was going to survive the mosquitoes. You can't survive without your lunch, your snacks. Start getting hungry. So you gotta make sure that everything is unloaded and loaded securely into the kayak. You gotta make sure that your vehicle is locked up. You're over there and you're like, I can't. I don't know if I locked the truck. Don't leave anything behind. Don't leave your beverages. I forgot my chair. And I was walking by it. And I even sat on it a couple of times. And I'm like, do I have everything? Yep. Except the darn chair. Extra batteries for your lamp. It's a long night. When you get to the spot, you got to set up camp. Do it before the sun goes down. Make sure you know where everything is, okay? This is going to be my snacks. I don't want to put them on the ground or the ants are going to get to them. This is where I'm going to have my lights that I'm going to need as the sun goes down. My bells, I gotta have my bells. Where are my bells? As soon as the light goes down, put your bells on your fishing. You gotta get your bait. For overnight, you need your mullet. Some people use shrimp, you can use your shrimp. But you have to take enough of it. You're going to be out there for 12 hours or maybe more. Start running out of bait. You're going to end up having to just stare out into the darkness and, got to take plenty of bait. Especially if those catfish start to hit. Like, there was a time when I was catching reds. I think I caught like 3 reds almost back to back on the same piece of mullet. Like that, you don't need a lot of bait. But you start catching those catfish, they tear up that piece of bait very easily. The crabs, they start getting to your bait. So you gotta go with plenty of bait. You gotta get through the night. If it's too cold, get out of there. If the wind picks up, make sure you remove the kayak from the edge of the shore. Pull it out. Don't leave on the kayak if it gets crazy ugly out there. Don't leave on the kayak. It's not worth it. Go walking. If it's within reasonable distance, right? The cold, that's, the wind, it does get a little chilly during the night hours. But if it gets to the point where, start walking back to the shore. And that stuff, leave it there. Come back for it later. When it's time to end the fishing trip, load everything up. A lot of people, they leave their gear behind because they're loading up in darkness. Get the flashlight. Don't forget your measuring tape. Don't forget your knife. Load everything back up. Through the course of the fishing trip, you gotta practice safety. Anything can happen. Specifically, if you're out there by yourself. There's been a time I'm trying to relocate my kayak. I need to get it back in the water, go a few feet, and get another spot. What do? I'm pulling on the rope. The rope breaks. There I go into the water. I felt some of my limbs hurting. That was close. Could have been any kind of object in the water. You bump your head, hit your head, that's it. I was wet now. Temperature starts to change. That's a wrench being thrown in there. You got to be very, very careful. Venturing in darkness is not a good thing. Specifically in the area where I like to fish at overnight, there's a lot of wildlife. You gotta make sure that you secure whatever container or bag you have, your wallet, keys, anything that's important to you, that you keep it tight, that you keep it close to you. Several fishing trips, you have raccoons. Raccoons, they can steal your bag. They can get your supplies and run off with them. In one terrible fishing trip that I had not very long ago, the raccoons took my bag out of the kayak. I was doing, I don't know what. They had the bag out of the kayak. And the raccoon saw me. The raccoon could have easily grabbed the bag and taken off into the night. Keys were in there, phone was in there. How are you gonna find the raccoon? So we gotta be careful. You have your keys, you got your phone, maybe medication. Keep it tight. Don't just wander off and, So that's pretty much the checklist that I go through, guys. I don't like to go at the spur of the moment. It's never been my thing. Back in the day, growing up, you like that. You like your dad telling you, hey, you want to go fish? Heck yes. Stop what you're doing. But now, preparation. Sometimes it's half the fun, right? Preparing. And like I said, let me show you the loaded truck. And I still don't have everything quite loaded yet. Like I said, I have to go through the checklist. I made it here, but I have to go through it before I leave. And so this is the new crate I lost at. I don't have a backup battery anymore. I have the measuring tape. I got the paddles. I got a rod holder right here. I got the anchor right there. Got the net. Got the bait bucket. The cooler. I have it ready right there. And this is the inside of my truck. I have the vest that I was talking to you about. I have my pliers, scissors. This is where I keep my phone, my keys. I got the trolling motor right here, brand new. The life vest. Don't leave without the life vest. And the whistle inside. I got my chair, the kayak seat. That's the chair that I use. I got the battery. Right there. The battery. And I got my beanies. You need beanies. My cast net. My fishing poles. So I got my gear ready. I'm gonna take the weight suit, right? That insulates very, very well. My recommendation for the weather like this, when it's nice and cold, with that weight suit, and then you have 3 or 4 jackets, you know, you're good on that. Yeah. So my plan is basically to take off tomorrow around noon. Takes me about an hour and a half. Take my time, get some bait, catch some mullet, plenty of it. Oh, and very important, you gotta secure the bait. I didn't secure my bait on my last fishing trip. I was out there doing some artificial, and when I got back, half my bait was gone. The pelican ate all the bait that I had there. The only bait that I had left was a bag that I had just purchased. So that was my mistake in not securing it, making sure that nothing gets to it. So yeah, I'll leave you with that, guys. And if you guys do decide to do some overnight fishing, once again, very important, get your checklist, check the weather. And sometimes while you're there, confirm with the weather app, right? If you believe that it's 10 mile an hour, hey, let's see if it is. Sometimes it's the opposite. It's very calm, beautiful, and the weather app tells you that it's 16 mile an hour or 10 mile an hour. You see, so sometimes you can't really trust that. But until next time, guys, from Far Texas, in the Anglers 48 show, Anglers 48, signing off.